A women's IPL is something that has for quite a while now been talked about, but hasn't quite come close to becoming a reality. That is until at least 2022, when in the middle of the IPL there were plenty of news reports coming in that the women's IPL would be something that is set to happen sooner rather than later. In fact, it is perhaps these news reports that prompted crowds at the Women's T20 Challenge held this year to loudly chant in the stadium, "We want a women's IPL." Indeed, it is something that, if many sources are to be believed, it will be happening very, very soon, perhaps even by next year itself. But what is the feasibility of a women's IPL in terms of both the economics as well as the talent pool that India has? And is it something that can be pulled off successfully, given the fact that in today's day and age, there is no paucity of women's cricket? Hello everyone and welcome to this video. I am Shane Dias and today we are going to be looking at the possibility of a women's IPL, why it might work, and why it is something that should be explored as soon as possible. But first, let's take a look at what exactly it is that the people in power and people within cricketing circles are saying about the prospect of the women's IPL. First and perhaps most importantly is this quote from Saurav Ganguly, the current board president. He said that the women's IPL, will have to be approved by the AGM, which as we know is set to be held later on, and we plan to start it by next year, which is 2023, hopefully. In fact, since then, many news reports have come out saying that the BCCI is looking at an earlier start than the men's IPL to give the women's IPL a bit of space and its own window. So that is indeed good news if you're a fan of women's cricket. But perhaps more importantly, something that was said by BCCI Secretary Jay Shah, where he said, "I can promise that the valuation of the league, franchises and media rights will stun one and all." Now, Jay Shah had said this in an interview to PTI, and he had said this in the aftermath of the men's IPL media rights selling for massive money, as we all know. Now, he said that the valuation of that league and the amount of money that that league will fetch is something that will stun a lot of people, and that is something that is in fact very, very good to hear. But how do the players, or specifically even some ex-players, feel about this? Well, we spoke to former India cricketer Sudha Shah to find out how it is that she felt about the prospect of a women's IPL, and she had quite a few interesting things to tell us. Check it out.
I think it's the right time to have the IPL.
Yeah.
If you see, we have a lot of talent in our domestic circuit. A lot of talent actually, and it'll be a good exposure for them, like playing with international players. And I think it'll be a great thing to start now, by say 2023. Yeah, when we were playing, we couldn't even consider cricket as a career because we just played for the love of it. But now there are so many options, and if not okay, you play and then you have an option of either becoming a coach or a video analyst or a physiotherapist. So there's a lot of scope for the girls to pursue cricket as a career per se. And this will encourage more players to come forward, because I think today the parents are not really when our parents had to think of our future also, and here with cricket there is a bright future, and I think that will help the future women cricketers.
But perhaps more than just the interest from former players as well as the current administrators, one of the questions that has been asked a lot of times is, what is the financial viability and feasibility of having a women's IPL? Would there be an audience for it? And a quick look at the numbers suggests that yes, there is indeed an audience that is keenly awaiting a women's IPL. In fact, if you look at the plates, if you look at the statistics that we have up here, you will see that the Women's T20 Challenge in 2020, whose viewing figures are publicly available, unlike the 2022 one, it logged 5.34 billion minutes in terms of viewership, and that, by the way, is quite the massive jump, because the 2019 season had only 2.20 billion minutes worth of viewership, which means that it more than doubled the viewership in just a single year. The source for this data, of course, as you can see, is the BARC, and it is something that is worth noting, the fact that, we always talk about growth in viewership as being important, but if anything can log an increase of nearly double in terms of its viewership numbers, it shows that there is quite a lot of interest, and that perhaps most importantly, that interest is only growing and yet to in fact peak. But it's not just for franchise cricket that Indian fans are hungry. It's something that has been proven even when India are competing in the international arena, because as you can see, the 2020 T20 World Cup, where India had made it quite far, it saw a 152% boost in viewership in India. Now that is a massive number, to put it politely, and in fact, if we're talking at the pure minutes, the tournament was viewed for 86.15 million viewing hours. That is a lot of viewing hours dedicated to women's cricket, which, if we would remember correctly, didn't have as much viewership until 2017, when India made it to the final of the ODI Women's World Cup, lost out, but what that tournament did was show people in India that the women's cricketers deserve their support, and that is something that has been reflective in recent viewership numbers. But it's not just the viewership numbers which is important, it's also the fact that at many levels there are many more other things at play. Now, we spoke to Harish Bijur, who is a brand expert and a brand guru in many ways, and he had quite a few interesting things to say about why it is that the Indian Cricket Board should in fact start a women's IPL very, very soon. Let's check it out.
Women's cricket in India, particularly in the T20 format, has taken baby steps. In 2018, we had the first match to an extent, it was a match, a fixture. And thereafter, it was an exhibition match, really speaking. Thereafter, we got picked up, with the T20 format, the women's T20 cricket format. And however, that's been struggling, and rightly so. It must be phased out. Talking about 3 teams and 4 matches, not enough exposure. You finally get into the situation where there's going to be IPL. And when this happens, monetization is going to be a key thought behind in everybody's mind. But look at monetization as baby steps when it comes to women's cricket. Because we haven't given women's cricket enough, how can you expect to take from it so soon? Give it time, give it 8 years' time, you'll monetize it quite fully. At this point of time, the first point of monetization is ticket prices at the stadium. If a T20 format went free for a long period of time, thereafter had tickets of 100 to 300 rupees as entry prices, and this is far, far away from men's cricket, and that of IPL. And therefore, the first monetization possibility is ticket prices. Get going with that. And rightly so, if you look at the Indian economy, it's a mixed economy with men, women, and children in the market. Men have men's cricket. Women do not have women's cricket in IPL format. Children actually partake of what the men partake. Tomorrow, the ability is to say that, hey, a woman is a very important decision maker in purchase of every kind. If you don't appeal to her, you don't appeal to anybody. So why not really talk about IPL, women's cricket, and children could be equally divided. And why not men? Men's eyeballs will also move to women's cricket if they do find cricket coming through, glamour coming through, business coming through, monetization potential coming through. And that's exactly what's happened with Indian cricket. And Indian cricket, which was first played in whites and then played as single day matches, then played in colors, then played in multicolor on the IPL format. So I think give it time, give women's cricket 8 years, give cricket, women's cricket what it deserves before wanting to take from it in monetization terms.
Of course, when you are talking about a women's IPL, it's important to note that the circumstances in place are very, very different from the time when the men's IPL was launched. Remember, when the IPL was first launched in 2008, franchise cricket as a whole didn't even exist. In fact, the IPL was in many ways the pioneer of that format of franchise T20 cricket taking place across cricket playing nations. Whereas the women's IPL will be coming into a world where there are in fact leagues and very good quality and popular leagues that are available for the cricket viewer. Remember, the Women's Big Bash League is seen in many as the standard bearer in terms of how a women's cricket league should be run. But we also have the Super League and even a Women's 100 that are already there, and there is stiff competition in terms of viewership when it comes to just these particular tournaments. So the real question that we have to ask ourselves is that will the existence of competition, that is something that a men's IPL did not have to deal with, will it pose some sort of a challenge? Well, the experts we spoke to seem to think that it wouldn't be too much of a worry, because the Indian cricket fan base as well as the might financially and otherwise of the BCCI would ensure that a women's IPL would turn out to be something of a major success. Let's check in with what they have to say.
Yeah, because I feel like, when you talk of women's IPL, you will think of the men's IPL and the success that it has sort of garnered all over. And it's the leading league now. And I feel that just the IPL, the name, I think will garner a lot of success.
No, my worry is exactly this. This is a very good question, because there's plenty of competition in league cricket which goes on, and women's cricket is quite advanced in many nations of the world. So fixtures, dates have been all fixed, okay? And if you want players from these countries to come and play in India, you will need to plan adequately and very well. And these women's cricket dates cannot overlap men's cricket dates. They have to be separate. So this is going to be the challenge. If at all anything is going to strangulate Indian women's IPL, it's going to be all of this. But I hope it doesn't strangulate.
So to sum things up, it seems that a women's IPL is not just something that should be happening. It should ideally be happening right now. However, since we're obviously not in a position to be having that league take place as we speak, the best that we can hope for is that sooner rather than later, this league comes to fruition and gives fans of Indian women's cricket something to cheer about. After all, as we've discussed in this video itself, there is at this point literally no reason why a women's IPL should not be in existence. After all, not only does India have a decent talent pool, the players are also excited to be playing, not just the Indian domestic players but foreign players as well. But the financial viability of a women's IPL would actually be bringing in a lot of revenue to the powers that be. And that is also something, that is an important aspect in many which ways when you're considering such a tournament. As things stand, as something that we discussed in detail through this video, there should be no problems in launching a women's IPL. After all, we can say that both the players as well as fans of women's cricket will be very happy, and that the world of cricket would be a very good place with a women's IPL present in it. Thank you all so much for joining us in this particular video. If you enjoy what it is that we do, don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and if you have already subscribed, don't forget to tap the bell icon so that you know every single time we're going live or putting up a new video on our channel. As always, I've been Shane Dias. Thank you all for joining us. I will be with you very soon. Bye-bye.